Welcome to the Great Makeover Kitchen Audit. I am your master auditor, and today we are ripping apart and rebuilding the absolute most misunderstood recipe in the entire Cambridge AS level syllabus for Afrikaans Language 8679. We are talking about the use of cue cards and illustrative material. If you are preparing for this exam, you already know that this single section is a pressure cooker. It is where top-tier students completely lose their nerve, and it is where incredible grades are burned to an absolute crisp. You walk into that exam room, you are handed a cue card. Maybe it has a short Afrikaans text, a provocative image, a graph about youth culture, or a complex table about environmental issues. And suddenly, your brain just blanks. You revert to basic, raw translation instead of high-level analytical cooking. Well, that stops today. We are going to audit this process from start to finish. We will tear down exactly why candidates fail, reverse engineer the examiner's palette, and construct a flawless 5-star syllabus strategy that you can apply across IGCSE, O, AS, or A-level tracks. Get your notepads out because the kitchen is open.
We do not just guess what the examiners want. We go straight to the source. The principal examiner report states explicitly that the use of cue cards and illustrative material is one of the most misunderstood areas across the board. Every single year, examiners watch candidates leave up to 60% of their potential mark yield entirely untouched. 60%. Why? Because of two major kitchen disasters. To demonstrate this, I have brought two mock apprentices into our digital kitchen workshop today, Alex and Sam. Now, Alex represents the first fatal error. Alex is a dumper. Alex looks at a cue card about, say, technology in schools, panics, and just dumps massive, unorganized piles of raw, unanalyzed factual definitions onto the page. There is no cooking happening, it is just a list of Afrikaans words pulled straight from the prompt. Then we have Sam. Sam represents the second fatal error. Sam writes beautiful, flowing, highly descriptive, and poetic sentences. But Sam's sentences are entirely empty. They completely miss the core command words demanded by the question. Both of these approaches result in a sour, failing response. We need to bridge the gap between raw data and beautiful execution, and we are going to fix that right now.
Here is exactly how we are breaking down today's masterclass. First, we will inspect the raw ingredients, exposing why your descriptive paragraphs are currently failing the grade. Second, we move into the recooking debate, where we put Alex and Sam on the clock to rebuild a broken thesis statement under extreme pressure. Third, we hit the recipe accelerator, unlocking the method mark strategy that will save you even if your final answer is technically flawed. Fourth, we are putting you in the hot seat with the viewer taste test arena for a live 60-second compliance audit. And finally, we finish with 5-star plating, giving you the ultimate 3-rule checklist to take into the exam room. Let's get to work.
Act 1. The raw ingredients. It is time to run the red digital pen through a failing response and see exactly where the sour notes are coming from. Let's look at a high-tariff past paper question alongside Alex's notoriously flawed student response. I brought Alex up to the dashboard and pointed out exactly why this response was flatlining. I told Alex, you are completely ignoring the 3 cognitive assessment domains. Listen to me closely, because these 3 domains are your master recipe. Domain 1 is knowledge and understanding. Domain 2 is critical analysis. Domain 3 is evaluation. When Alex gets a cue card showing a graph about modern youth communication, say social media cobride under teenagers, Alex just writes down, the graph shows teenagers use social media a lot. That is nothing but basic knowledge and understanding. It is raw flour. You cannot just serve raw flour and expect a Michelin star. You must cook those facts down. You must transition from simply stating what the card says to critically analyzing how and why it says it, and finally, evaluating why that actually matters in the broader context of Afrikaans culture or society. You have to take that raw ingredient and apply heat.
Let me show you exactly what that looks like on the dashboard. Look at the difference here. On the left side, we have isolated answers. This is what drops you straight into the lowest marking bands. An isolated answer treats the cue card like it exists in a total vacuum. It assumes the information on the card has no connection to the outside world. But on the right side, we see the absolute secret seasoning that examiners are desperately searching for: cross-topic connections. Establishing causal relationships is how you secure the top tier. For example, if you pull a theme from a cue card about urbanization and you connect it back to a specific historical Afrikaans literary theme you have studied or to a specific socioeconomic shift in South Africa or Namibia, you instantly elevate your response. You show the examiner that you are not just memorizing vocabulary, you are actively mastering the application of the language. You are showing them you understand the ecosystem, not just the single tree.
Act 2. The recooking debate. Knowing the theory is one thing, but applying it under the brutal tick of the exam clock is an entirely different beast.
I put Alex and Sam at the kitchen workspace, set the simulated exam timer to 12 minutes, and told them to salvage a broken text block. It was immediate chaos.
Alex started panicking, trying to overload the layout with the heaviest, most complex Afrikaans terminology possible just to impress the examiner. Alex was yelling, "We need to use words like gemeenschapsontwikkeling and hernieuwbare energy, even if it doesn't fit." Meanwhile, Sam was rushing the preparation steps, trying to skip past the actual data on the cue card to write a flashy conclusion. Sam argued, "The examiner knows what the card says, we don't need to quote it, let's just tell them the final thought." I had to slam my hand on the prep table and call a hard stop. Both of these strategies will get you an absolute 0. You cannot guess and you cannot rush. You must use a strict procedural framework for data interpretation. Step 1. Extract data from texts and tables. You must physically pull the exact, relevant data points from the visual material. Step 2. Interpret relationships. How does the first piece of extracted data affect the second? Step 3. Draw evidence-based conclusions. You are forbidden from making a sweeping cultural claim unless it is directly, unequivocally anchored to the data you extracted in Step 1.
And the debate didn't stop there. After I forced them to build a proper logical string, Sam turned around and wrote the entire argument as one massive, unformatted block of text. No paragraphs, no structure, just a wall of words. I took out my red pen and crossed the entire thing out. Even the most brilliant, perfectly seasoned argument will be sent back to the kitchen if you ignore the strict presentation conventions. The practical application of illustrative materials demands structure. You must use proper headings to guide the examiner's eye through your logic. You must use correct subject terminology precisely where it belongs. You absolutely need appropriate formats. And crucially, you need clear annotation when referencing specific sections of the cue cards. If you write "as seen in the second graph" or "sus anda die eerste paragraaf van die tekst," you are holding the examiner's hand and walking them directly to your evidence. If you present a 5-star argument in a sloppy, unreadable format, the examiner simply cannot digest it, and you will lose the marks.
Act 3. Recipe Accelerator and Method Marks. But before we get into the exact structural matrix that will save your grade, we need to pause. Kitchen freeze. Kitchen freeze! Before we unlock this 5-star paragraph structure to transform your final grades, you need to optimize your revision recipe. Take a second right now to subscribe to Ace the Exams, that is at Ace-the Exams, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly grade makeovers. Whether you are cooking up results at IGCSE, O-levels, or AS and A-levels, we have the exact formulas you need to maximize your yield. All right, timer back on. Let's unveil the golden rule of Cambridge papers. It is the method mark strategy. The quote on the board says, "Show you're working." Even if your final answer is wrong, method marks can save you. This is absolutely critical for the use of cue cards. Examiners award massive, vital marks for the process itself. They are actively looking to reward systematic, evidence-based reasoning. Let's say you misinterpret a tiny, nuanced detail on the Afrikaans cue card. Your final conclusion ends up being slightly off base. But if your analytical process, your data extraction, your comparative logic, your paragraph structure is flawless, you still capture the majority of the marks. You are rewarded for thinking like a high-level scholar, even if the final dish is slightly imperfect.
So, how do you ensure your process is flawless? When I saw Alex and Sam's evidence links dropping out mid-paragraph, leaving their text totally raw, I introduced them to the problem-solving matrix. This is your recipe accelerator. Whenever you feel your argument stalling, force yourself through these 4 steps. First, identify given information. Literally point to the card and ask, what is objectively true here? Second, break your argument into logical steps and solve. Do not jump from A to Z. Go from A to B to C. Third, check reasonableness. Take a step back and ask yourself, does my interpretation actually make sense within the realistic context of the Afrikaans passage or image provided? If you are claiming a picture of a bicycle represents the total collapse of modern transport, that is not reasonable. Scale it back. And fourth, make justified recommendations. Every single claim you make must be justified by a specific piece of evidence. If you follow this matrix, you flawlessly blend your raw facts with your top-tier evaluation every single time.
Act 4, the Viewer Taste Test Arena. I am taking the training wheels off and handing control over to you. It is time for a live compliance audit challenge.
Your first challenge is mastering the visual ingredient scan. When presented with a complex source data chart or a text case study, you cannot just list what you see. You have to execute a comparative analysis. Think about how top-scoring candidates do this. First, they identify similarities and differences. They don't just look for what matches, they actively hunt for the tension, the discrepancies. Second, they use specific comparative connectives in their Afrikaans writing. They use phrases like "on the ene kant" for "on the one hand," or "in tegenstelling met" for "in contrast to." These phrases literally signal to the examiner that high-level cognitive processing is happening.
Third, they support every single comparison with direct evidence. And finally, they draw conclusions on relative importance. They don't just say two things are different. They tell the examiner exactly why one difference matters more than the other in the context of the prompt.
Let's move to Challenge 2. I want you to spot the poisoned sentence. I'm going to read you a flawed, medium-tier sample student response paragraph. I want you to locate the exact line where the logic drops and destroys the entire overall score. Imagine you are reading an essay about a cue card showing a shift in local dietary habits. The student writes, Die illustratie wijst dat meer mensen kitskoos eet. This is as gevolg van bezige leefstyle. This event clearly caused a massive shift in local traditions and the total abandonment of cultural heritage. Daarom moet ons terugkeer naar our tradities. Did you catch it? Where did the logic drop? It drops exactly at the absolute, massive claim about the total abandonment of cultural heritage. The student took a basic fact about fast food, made a massive catastrophic claim about cultural abandonment, and offered zero specific evidence from the text or image to back it up. That lack of structural precision poisons the entire essay. It breaks the logic string. You cannot make a macro-level claim without micro-level evidence.
Now, let's look at the dashboard where I have extracted the top 3 examiner warnings directly from Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. These are the fatal mistakes you must avoid at all costs. Mistake number 1, confusing cause and effect. Students constantly mix up what triggered an event versus the outcome shown on the illustrative materials. The fix? Trace relationships accurately before you write. Mistake number 2, forgetting format and presentation. As we saw with Sam, brilliant ideas get completely lost in terrible formatting. The fix is to apply strict conventions relentlessly. Mistake number 3, ignoring specific context. Candidates often try to memorize a generic, rehearsed answer about technology or the environment and just paste it onto whatever cue card they get. Examiners hate this. The fix is that you must tailor your answers to the exact, specific scenario presented on the card in front of you.
To make sure you never forget these presentation checks during the immense heat of a high-tariff exam, I am giving you a quick memory hack. When the clock is ticking down and the pressure is on, it is so easy to freeze and forget your conventions. So create a mnemonic using the first letters of key terms. We need to remember headings, terminology, formats, and annotations. HTFA. Let's use the phrase, hot tasty food always. When you hear the invigilator announce that you have 5 minutes left, you do not just sit there. You do the hot tasty food always scan. Did you use your headings? Is your Afrikaans terminology accurate? Is the overall format correct for the specific task? And are your data references clearly annotated? Running this simple scan ensures you do not bleed out easily avoidable marks right at the finish line.
Act 5, the 5-star plating. It is time to bring it all together.
After running Alex and Sam through the absolute ringer, they finally sat down and rebuilt their paragraph line by line. They extracted the exact data. They used comparative connectives. They anchored every single cultural claim to a specific annotation from the Afrikaans cue card, and as they read it aloud, we watched the Michelin dashboard meters max out to a perfect 100% score. They finally cooked a 5-star response. I'm going to distill this entire chaotic kitchen session into 3 universal grade rules that you must take into the exam room. Rule number 1, the 3-step ingredient prep, which is your decoding. Deconstruct the question, extract the data, and select your analytical framework before your pen even touches the paper. Rule number 2, the heat control formula, which is your timing. Paste your arguments systematically through the problem-solving matrix so you never rush the logic or overcomplicate the phrasing just to sound smart. Rule number 3, the pass line review, your checklist. In the final minutes, verify your results, check your formatting using the HTFA mnemonic, and ensure those top-tier cross-topic connections are shining clearly through the text.
So, I leave you with this final question. When you look at your next practice essay, are your cross-topic connections clear? The next time you are handed an Afrikaans cue card, ask yourself, are you just acting like a human dictionary translating what you see? Are you truly evaluating its cultural weight and analytical depth? Mastering that difference doesn't just push you past the pass line, it proves genuine, elite fluency and analytical skill. That is how you dominate the Cambridge syllabus. Now it is your turn to execute. Take a second right now to subscribe to Ace the Exams, that is at Ace-the Exams. Click that notification bell for our weekly grade masterclasses, and go to the comments below right now and tell me exactly which Cambridge subject and level, IGCSE, O, AS, or A level you are preparing to conquer next. Class dismissed, get back to the kitchen and start cooking up those grades.